Today I'm going to be doing my musical baseball show. Let me explain what it is. I'll be doing baseball songs, most of them I've written, trivia, stories, and all kinds of things. We try to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have a question or a comment or something, feel free to just jump right in. Please do it in between the songs. It just works a lot better that way, you know. So before we get started, though, I want to ask you, how many of you are like diehard baseball fans? Okay, good. And how many of you are kind of casual fans? And how many of you thought there was going to be free food? Okay, because there isn't any, I guess. But unfortunately. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was a sports writer for 18 years. I've been a songwriter for a long time, so it was inevitable the worlds were going to collide, you know, and I wrote about 15 baseball songs. I've got a bunch of baseball CDs. When I was a sports writer, I wrote for the Patriot Ledger, the Lowell Sun, the Boston Globe, Associated Press, Baseball Digest. I did a lot of freelancing. And I covered the World Series in 1985 and in 1986. That was sort of the high point of my career. And in 1985, I did not have a laptop because, well, nobody had laptops in 1985. I mean, there were portable computers, but you wouldn't want it on your lap, trust me. So in order to file my stories that year, I had to drive to the Associated Press office in the city where the games were being played and file a story from there and send it to my newspaper. So it was a lot. That year was St. Louis and Kansas City, and let me mute my phone. Yeah, it is okay. St. Louis and Kansas City that year. So it was a lot of fun driving around in a strange city in the middle of the night, you know, in a rented car, trying to find the office. But apparently all the stories got filed, so everything worked out pretty well. But in 1986, I got one of these. This was the Radio Shack TRS-80. It was a landmark bit of technology. It was amazing. You could actually type your story on this computer and hook it up to a phone line, because there's no internet back in '86. But you hooked it up to a phone line, and you could send your story into your newspaper right from the press box. So that was awesome. As you can see, pretty crude by today's standards. The small screen, 5 lines you could get on the screen, and it had 25,000 bytes of memory. So you could do like 4 or 5 stories, and then you had to start erasing them, you know. So compare 25,000 bytes of memory. It does not. I tried it. I got it to turn on a little bit, and I don't know. They hadn't used it in like 35 years or something. So, and I have no use for it now either. So. But it's a good prop, you know. So anyway, to compare this to a modern-day smartphone, this has 0.00008% of the memory of a smartphone. But it was pretty useful back then. And I've been a lifelong fan. I've been to 101 major and minor league ballparks, including this one here, the Tri-City Valley Cats in the Albany area. So 101 ballparks, and that's even more impressive when you consider the fact that my wife would much rather have a root canal than go to a baseball game, believe me. So that's the truth. So I have 3 CDs. They're all in the Hall of Fame archive, which is across from the main museum in Cooperstown, New York. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. I'm going to start off with a song about a guy, I think you remember him, from the 2004 curse-busting World Championship winning Red Sox. His name is Johnny Damon. Remember Johnny Damon? He was an amazing ball player. He was a multi-tooled ball player. He could run, he could hit for power, he could field, he could hit for average. He couldn't throw worth a damn, but you know, can't have everything. And he was very instrumental in that World Championship in 2004 because he had a lot of big hits. He had a grand slam against the Yankees in the 7th game of the League Championship Series. You're getting ahead of me here. And he had 4 extra base hits in the World Series. And the following year, he batted .316, his all-time career high. And over the winter, he became a free agent. And he did the unthinkable, which was to sign a contract for the New York Yankees for a mere $12 million more. I mean, the nerve of that guy. So I wrote a song about it, and people thought it was pretty amusing back then. But after a few years, it got a little dated, so I stopped playing it. But now it's nostalgic, it's retro, you know, so it's making a comeback. Why did you go, Johnny Damon? Why did you take the cash and run? Do you think in New York City you'll be having this much fun? They cut your hair and shave your beard, you smiled and just said thanks. We don't love you anymore, 'cause now you're with the Yanks. Perhaps they didn't tell you, perhaps you did not know. Left center field's 450 plus, how you gonna make that throw? There's lots more ground to cover, you're getting slower every year. And I bet by mid-July you wish that you were here. Why did you go, Johnny Damon? Why did you take the cash and run? Do you think in New York City you'll be having this much fun? They cut your hair and shave your beard, you smiled and just said thanks. We don't love you anymore, 'cause now you're with the Yanks. Now Georgie don't like losing, so you best be on your guard. 'Cause if you don't hit 300, life will never be so hard. And if you don't make the playoffs and win a couple rounds, the fans will cuss and swear at you, run you out of town. Why did you go, Johnny Damon? Why did you take the cash and run? Do you think in New York City you'll be having this much fun? They cut your hair and shave your beard, you smiled and just said thanks. And we don't love you anymore, 'cause now you're with the Yanks. Why did you go, Johnny Damon? Why did you take the cash and run? Do you think in New York City you'll be having this much fun? You're out of sight and out of mind, don't think you'll be missed. We don't need you anymore, 'cause we got Cocoa Crisp. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I guess a few of you remember Cocoa Crisp. You know, he was the guy who he replaced Johnny Damon in center field. He was kind of a mediocre journeyman type player. But the Red Sox, they did have a long-range plan. They had this hot shot in the minor leagues named Jacoby Ellsbury, and he became the center fielder before too long. So I actually rewrote the final chorus to reflect that bit of information, and then Ellsbury signed with the Yankees too, so I said, forget it. Anyway, we're going to do our first trivia question, and no prizes involved here, just admiration from your peers, I guess. So the Red Sox in 2004 pulled off a big blockbuster trade at midseason. They traded Nomar Garciaparra to the Chicago Cubs. So the question is, whom did they receive in return? Remember? I know it was a long time ago. Anybody want to take a stab? Yes. That was another trade. That was they traded a relief pitcher to the Seattle Mariners to get. That was one of the great heists of all time too. They got Baratek and Derek Lowe for I can't remember the guy's name, but it'll come to me. But that's a good guess. But that's not it. Anybody else? All right, well, this was a very complicated trade. It involved 4 teams. They were all swapping players around. So the Red Sox traded Nomar to the Cubs And the other three teams involved were Montreal Expos, the Minnesota Twins, and let's see, and the Montreal Expos, the Twins, and the Cubs, and the Red Sox. So it's 4 teams. So in return, they received Orlando Cabrera, shortstop who replaced Nomar, and from Montreal, and he had a great season and postseason, and Doug Minkiewicz from the Minnesota Twins. Now, Doug Minkiewicz, you may recall, recorded the final out of the 2004 World Series. So I wrote a song about Doug Minkiewicz, but that's not why I wrote the song. I wrote the song because until he came to the Red Sox, I could never really pronounce his name, you know. I mean, it had this long name. They had to take the vowels out to fit it in the box score. But once he got here, it was on radio, it was on TV, it was in the newspapers. So I learned to say it pretty quickly, and I found it to be a very lyrical type of a name. It had sort of a nice poetic cadence to it, and it was kind of fun to say. So I figured, well, if it was that much fun to say, it must be like 3, 4, 5 times as much fun to sing. So that's why I wrote the song. Doug Minkiewicz, he's my favorite player. Doug Minkiewicz, he's the man, he's the man. Doug Minkiewicz, I just love to say it. Doug Minkiewicz, he's the man, he's the man. When he was a twin, it didn't mean a thing. Then he joined the Sox, and Doug Minkiewicz really rocked. Doug Minkiewicz, he's my favorite player. Doug Minkiewicz, he's the man, he's the man. He's kind to his mother and a former Gold Glover. Doug may not make the Hall of Fame, but he's got 12 letters in his name. Doug Minkiewicz, I can't even spell it. Doug Minkiewicz, but I sure do like to yell it. Doug Minkiewicz, he's my favorite player. Doug Minkiewicz, he's the man, he's the man. M-I-E-N-T-K-I-E-W-I-C-Z. I think that's right. Doug Minkiewicz, he's my favorite player. Doug Minkiewicz, he just took that ball and ran. Doug Minkiewicz, I just love to say it. Doug Minkiewicz, he's the man, he's the man, he's the man, he's the man. Doug Minkiewicz, he's the man. Thank you very much. This is about a project that I did 40 years ago, 1985. And so it's the 40th anniversary. It was a national campaign to get rid of the designated hitter rule. I never liked it, and I still don't like it. And before we go any further, I just want to see where you people stand on this important issue. So how many of you like the designated hitter rule? Okay, and how many of you don't like it? Good. And how many of you have no idea what I'm talking about? Okay, all right. So I will explain. So designated hitter rule was adopted by the American League in 1973. Prior to that, the offense in the late 60s, early 70s, the offense in baseball was spiraling downward at an alarming rate. It was less hits, less home runs, less runs, and the owners were getting fearful that fans were going to lose interest. So they devised this rule on an experimental basis, and then they later adopted it permanently, whereby the pitcher didn't have to hit, because there are a lot of pitchers that aren't great hitters, so they figure, well, we'll have a guy, he'll hit for the pitcher, and then the pitcher doesn't have to hit. So essentially what you had was one spot in the batting order where the pitcher would pitch but not hit, and then the designated hitter would hit but not play the fields. So you had two players sharing one spot in the lineup, which is against all the fundamental concepts of baseball, but you know, that's the way it was. So I never liked it because it takes a lot of strategy out of the game. You know, if you're getting near the end of the game and you want to make a pitching change, and no DH, well, you have to figure out, well, where's the pitcher hit in the order? Who's going to pinch hit? Who's coming in out of the bullpen? Where, am I going to change a few positions along the way? The other part of it is that if you had a really good hitter on the team and he wasn't a great defensive player, you have to find a place to put him, and that's a part of the strategy. So that's totally lacking when you have the DH rule. The other part of it is that there are a lot of really good hitting pitchers that we never get a chance to see, which is unfortunate. I think it's a part of the game that I enjoy. So I don't know if you remember Rick Wise. He pitched for the Red Sox and a few other teams. Well, in 1971, he was pitching for the Phillies, and he had probably the greatest game in the history of baseball for an individual performer. He threw a no-hitter and hit 2 home runs in the same game. So that's pretty amazing. And then Earl Wilson, former pitcher for the Red Sox, 35 career home runs, including 2 as a pinch hitter. And Jim Tobin was a pitcher for the Boston Braves in the 40s, and he is the only pitcher ever to hit 3 home runs in one game. And then there was this other really good hitting pitcher. You may have heard of him. His name was Babe Ruth, and he was such a good hitter that when the Yankees got him, they said, forget about pitching, just hit. But he was a very good pitcher, too. He won 94 games as a pitcher and set all kinds of World Series records. So anyway, for all these reasons, I don't like the designated hitter, and I launched this national campaign. So in order to do a national campaign, you have to have a catchy slogan. So this is my slogan here. It's dump the DH. And I printed up a couple of thousand bumper stickers and made up a brochure. I sent it all over the place. And it was the 1985 version of going viral. It was in the New York Times. It was in the LA Herald. A lot of big daily newspapers across the country. TBS did a little feature on me. I did 30 radio talk shows, coast to coast. I was on the air in San Francisco one night for like 3 hours. People were just very passionate about this. And also ran in Sports Illustrated with a photo, which I have on the table over there, a copy of that. Once it ran in Sports Illustrated, the campaign really took off because at that time, Sports Illustrated had a global distribution of 4 million subscribers. So I was selling the bumper sticker and the brochure for a couple of dollars to finance the campaign. And once it ran in Sports Illustrated, I started getting mail from all over the world. It was amazing. I remember getting cash from New Zealand. I don't know what to do with it. I just put it in a scrapbook. I got a money order from Saudi Arabia, and I got mail and photos from Australia and Europe and Canada and Mexico. It was really amazing. And the crowning achievement was the fact that this bumper sticker now resides in the Baseball Hall of Fame, the main museum in Cooperstown. And I do have a photo that has my name under it, and I'm very, very excited about that. And what happened? Did anything change with the designated hitter because of the campaign? Unfortunately, no. And actually, I was horrified to see that the National League adopted the DH a few years ago. But it was not all for naught. I had a lot of fun doing all the interviews and learned a lot, and I got into the Hall of Fame, so I can't complain. That's my story about the dump the DH. One of the great feats of hitting by a pitcher I intentionally omitted because it's the subject of this song. And it's all about a guy named Tony Cloninger. Anybody remember him? Okay, well now you learn all about Tony Cloninger. He was a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, and he is the only pitcher ever to hit 2 grand slams in one game. So, and I'm sure that record's gonna last forever because the pitchers don't hit anymore. 2 things you need to know about this song. So, when you have 9-man batting order and no DH, which is what happened back when Tony Cloninger was pitching, the number 8 hitter in the lineup has a tough job. He hits right in front of the pitcher, and a lot of times they're going to either intentionally walk him or not give him anything good to hit. So this particular game, Dennis Menke was the number 8 hitter in the Braves lineup. And in the first inning, there was second and third and 2 outs, and Menke was due up. And so they intentionally walked him to load the bases and pitched to Tony Cloninger, and he hit a grand slam. Now, 3 innings later, the exact same scenario presented itself, and Cloninger hit another grand slam. And then he added an RBI single later in the game. So he had 9 RBIs in the game, all-time record for a pitcher, and the all-time record for any Braves player, including Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, Chipper Jones, Joe Adcock. None of those guys ever had 9 RBIs in a game, but Tony Cloninger did. Excuse me? Did he win the game? He won the game 17-3. Well, he had 9 RBIs, and he's pitched a complete game, which is, no pitcher would pitch a complete game if they were ahead 17-3 today, but this was a different era back then. And so the other thing you got to know is that there's absolutely nothing in the English language that rhymes with Cloninger. So his nickname was Tony C. And I realize when you say Tony C, people think of Tony Conigliaro, who was a great Red Sox star. So that's why I called this song The Other Tony C. July the 3rd in '66, baseball history in the mix. That day the Giants played Tony Cloninger and the Braves. Tony C was on the hill, you don't remember him? Well, now you will. It was his claim to fame, had 2 grand slams in that game. The Braves scored 3 to start the day, 2 men on, 2 away. It was only the first inning, but the fun was just beginning. Dennis Menke walked to the plate, and skipper Herman Frank said, "Wait, strategy is clear, let's walk Menke." And pitched to Tony C. He took a mighty cut, a long fly ball, the baseball soared right over the wall. Tony C would touch them all on that historic day. 4 runs in just 1 swing, pretty good, beautiful thing. Once around was really nice. In that game, he did it twice. On to inning number 4, up by 9. The Braves got more. Torrey reached, so did Bowling. 2 men out, but they were rolling. Menke walked up to the plate, and Herman Frank said, "Wait, lightning can't strike twice. Let's walk Menke." And pitched to Tony C. He took a mighty cut, a long fly ball, the baseball soared right over the wall. Tony C would touch them all on that historic day. 4 runs in just 1 swing, pretty good, a beautiful thing. Once around was really nice. In that game, he did it twice. Now Tony C was not quite done. His single plated 1 more run. On the day, 9 RBIs, a mark no pitcher would reprise. Pitching-wise, he did just fine. Struck out 5, went all 9 on both sides of the ball. Tony C, he did it all. He took a mighty cut, a long fly ball, the baseball soared right over the wall. Tony C would touch them all on that historic day. 4 runs in just 1 swing, pretty good, a beautiful thing. Once around was really nice. in that game. He did it twice. Well, one grand slam was really nice on that day. He did it twice. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. So, hey, actually, that was a different era back then, because Tony Cloninger, he pitched opening day that year, and he pitched 13 innings on opening day. So, kind of interesting. So, we'll do another trivia question, and this is like my favorite trivia question because it harkens back to that era when pitchers, you know, if you're a starting pitcher, you pitch the whole game. So, can you name the pitcher who holds the record for the most strikeouts in one game? Okay, most strikeouts by a pitcher. Nobody has a guess? Yeah. That's a good guess. I think he had his best game, I think, was 17. So that's close to the record, but that's not it. But he was definitely a strikeout pitcher. Okay, well, a lot of people would say Roger Clemens. If you mentioned Roger Clemens, Kerry Wood, Max Scherzer, or Randy Johnson, each of those guys had 20 strikeouts in a 9-inning game. And that's the record for a 9-inning game. And actually, Clemens did it twice. He's the only one who ever do it twice. But in 1962, Tom Cheney of the Washington Senators had 21 strikeouts in a 16-inning complete game victory over the Baltimore Orioles. He threw 208 pitches in that game. That's like about a month's worth for these guys today. So, okay. So now you're learning a lot of things today. You're learning about the only pitcher ever hit 2 grand slams in one game, and most strikeouts in a game. The Tony Cloninger song is also, it's on my newest baseball CD, which is Baseball's Greatest Hits, Volume 3. And I have 3 volumes of it. The first one came out in 1979. Yes? Actually, yes. Actually, I have a couple of pictures. Actually, I sought out one of them. I did a song about a guy named Mike Hessman, who holds the sort of dubious record of the most home runs ever hit in the minor leagues. And so I sent him a copy of the CD. And actually, he became a coach in the minor leagues, and he was coaching in the Eastern League for the Erie Seawolves, I believe, about 5-6 years ago. And they were playing up in Portland, Maine, so I drove up to Portland, Maine to meet him. And I took a photo with him. It's on the table over there. And I got him to autograph the lyric sheet, and he liked it. He said he liked the song. And then I also did a song about Tug McGraw, and actually mailed him the record. It was a vinyl disc back then. This is in the 70s. And I asked him to autograph it and send it back to me, and he did as well. So that's also on the table. So, yeah, I do try to contact some of these people, and good question. So anyway, I told you a little bit more. I told you before about the Dump the DH campaign, which was very successful. So in 1986, the following year, I decided I'm going to do another campaign, because like now, I am a big shot. You know, I know, I know how to do this. They know me. You know, so I decided to take on artificial turf, because I figured nobody liked artificial turf, and a lot of players in the 80s, a lot of stadiums in the 80s had artificial turf. So in order to do a national campaign, you got to have a catchy slogan, right? So this is my slogan: pull out the rug, and of course it's on green, and on the bottom it says, funded by the Alliance for Natural Playing Fields. I just made that up. I thought it would look good on there, you know. So I did the same stuff, and it didn't have nearly the impact of the Dump the DH campaign. I don't know why. Maybe it was just going to the well once too often. But I did get written up in USA Today and New York Daily News and Sporting News, but it just didn't take off like the other one did. And so I have a few hundred bumper stickers left over. If you want one, let me know. I'll take care of you. So about 6 or 7 years prior to this campaign, I had actually written a song about artificial turf. And so I incorporated the song into the campaign. And unfortunately, the song didn't do that much for the campaign, and the campaign didn't do that much for the song, but I still like the song, so here it is. Now we got artificial flavors and artificial snow. Imitation mayonnaise, false teeth, and you know you got artificial colors in your food and for your hair. But that artificial grass is just too much for me to bear. If Abner Doubleday was alive, he'd be aghast. If he went to a baseball game and didn't see no grass, just a big green carpet with some fancy white lines, a little bit of dirt, and those metric signs, he'd see AstroTurf. AstroTurf. What have they done to Mother Earth? I don't want nothing beneath my feet that a horse can't eat. So take it away. It all began in Houston, where they play the game indoors. They built a big dome stadium, but one of its flaws was the grass just wouldn't grow where the sun refused to shine. So they ripped it out and put in the artificial kind. They put in AstroTurf. AstroTurf. What have they done to Mother Earth? I don't want nothing beneath my feet that a horse can't eat. So take it away. Okay, thank you. That was on my very first album, and it actually wasn't a CD. It was a 7-inch vinyl record, and so I do have a copy of the original vinyl there. For those of you who are nostalgic for that, I actually sold one of them last year. I know. I mean, I'm not sure I understand the vinyl craze. Why everyone's so excited about vinyl records? I don't know. I mean, I tried playing it, and every time I went over a bump in my guitar, the thing skipped. So. Anyway, this is a song about the greatest game ever pitched in the history of baseball. And interesting part about it was that it wasn't a perfect game. It wasn't a no-hitter. It wasn't a shutout. It wasn't even a victory. On May 26, 1959, Harvey Haddix of the Pittsburgh Pirates, he pitched 12 innings without allowing a base runner. Unfortunately, his team didn't score any runs for him, so the game proceeded on to the 13th inning. He was locked up in a pitching duel with Lou Burdett of the Milwaukee Braves. And in the top of the 13th, Burdett shut out the Pirates. They went to the bottom of the 13th, still scoreless, and Haddix had still not allowed a base runner, and a lot of weird stuff started happening. The first batter reached on an error, and then they bunted him over to second. Hank Aaron came to the plate, and they intentionally walked Hank Aaron, and that brought up Joe Adcock, and Joe Adcock hit a home run to win the game. But Hank Aaron, for some reason, got confused as to whether the ball had actually gone over the fence, so he ran down to second, and then he ran back to the dugout. So he was out. And only one run scored on the play, but it was enough to win the game. So this is called 12 Perfect Innings. Good old Harvey Haddix pitched big league ball for 14 years. He was good, but not an all-time great. One night in Milwaukee, pitched a game for the ages, but never got a chance to celebrate. 12 perfect innings, 36 up, 36 down. It was by far absolute mastery on the mound. 12 perfect innings. No batter reached first base. What happened next simply cannot erase. 12 perfect innings. Pitching for the Bucks that night, Haddock dazzled from the start, mowed right through the lineup, one by one. 9 innings, no hits, but it was 0-0, so there was still work to be done. The next 9 Braves walk right back to the bench. The little lefty sure was in a zone. The only problem was Milwaukee's Lou Burdett had a shutout going of his own. 12 perfect innings, 36 up, 36 down. It was by far absolute mastery on the mound. 12 perfect innings. No batter reached first base. What happened next? Simply cannot erase. 12 perfect innings. Inning 13, the magic came undone. An error and a walk preceded Adcock's home run. He passed a teammate on the bases, but the winning run had crossed, and the greatest game ever pitched wound up as a loss. Dramatic pause here. 12 perfect innings, 36 up, 36 down. It was by far absolute mastery on the mound. 12 perfect innings. No batter reached first base. What happened next? Simply cannot erase. 12 perfect innings. Okay, thank you. Yeah, those are the good old days, you know, when the starting pitcher, they just started the game and finished the game, you know. So we'll do another trivia question now. This is about the great Ted Williams. And Ted Williams batted .344 for his career. He was undoubtedly the greatest Red Sox hitter of all time and one of the great hitters in baseball history. And so he played 19 seasons. So the question is, how many times did he collect 200 or more hits in a season? So this is between 0 and 19, so you can take a guess here, probably. Anybody want to take a stab? That's a little off, but not too bad. Anybody else? That's further away. So if this was The Price is Right, you would have won it. So. Anybody else want to take one more guess? It's closer. So the correct answer is 0. He never had 200 hits in a season, and there were reasons for that. First of all, he played in the era of the 154-game schedule, so there were less games. But that's not the main reason, because a lot of guys had 200 hits in that era. But the main reason was that he walked so many times that he never had enough at-bats to get 200 hits. He had a very disciplined philosophy of hitting, and that was that you never swing at a ball outside the strike zone. And he had an impeccable eye. And if the ball was like 1 millimeter outside or inside, he wouldn't swing at it. And he had the 3rd most walks of all time. And his career on-base percentage of .482, which is almost 50%, is the highest in baseball history. Means that basically every other time he came to the plate, he reached base somehow. So that's pretty amazing. And so you're wondering, perhaps you're wondering, the year that he batted .400, which was in 1941, he batted .406, last major leaguer to hit .400. Did he have 200 hits that season? And he did not. He had 185 hits that year and 147 walks. So, anyway, this next one is about It was inspired by the 1978 Red Sox. Now, does anybody remember what happened in 1978 to the Red Sox? Yes, sir. That it actually wasn't a playoff game, but it was a one-game tiebreaker. Yes. The Red Sox had I'm sure the reason that you people don't remember it is that you've blocked it out. You know, it's too painful to remember, so you just put it someplace else. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the year that they had a 14-and-a-half-game lead on the Yankees in July, and they frittered it all away, and they wound up tied with the Yankees at the end of the regular season. So they played a one-game. It was actually an extension of the regular season, not a playoff game, but they played one-game tiebreaker at Fenway Park. And the Red Sox were looking good early in the game. They were ahead 2-0, going to the top of the seventh. I mean, Yaz hit a home run, and Mike Torres was pitching a shutout. And the Yankees put a couple of guys on, and Bucky Dent came to the plate for the Yankees. And he was in the midst of this really terrible slump, and he only had 4 home runs the whole season to that point. But he hit a home run over the left field wall, put the Yankees ahead for good, and they won the game. They won the Eastern Division. They won the American League pennant. They won the World Series, and the Red Sox, they went home because there's no wild card in 1978. So it's kind of tragic, actually. And the song was also inspired by my mother. She was a big Brooklyn Dodgers fan, you know, and the Dodgers had some amazing teams in the 40s and 50s. They went to the World Series 7 times. They faced the Yankees every time, and they lost 6 out of the 7. So the battle cry out of Brooklyn every year was, "Wait until next year." And that's the title of this song. This was the best damn team that I ever did see. It had strength up the middle. It had power and speed. Most of the season they could do no wrong. But when October rolled around, it was the same old song. Wait until next year. Wait until next year. Exactly what went wrong is all too clear. So near and so far, close but no cigar. It's a long, long way till opening day, and the winter's getting near. Have another beer, wait until next year. We all thought it was a piece of cake, back 12-game lead at the All-Star break. But the pitching was lousy and the hitting got worse, and the next thing I knew we were out of first. Wait until next year. Wait until next year. It's a long, long way till opening day, and the winter's getting near. Have another beer, wait until next year. The clouds of the summer became the outs of the fall. That baseball team made fools of us all. Squandered that lead, didn't take long, and October arrived with the same old song. Wait until next year. Wait until next year. Exactly what went wrong is all too clear. So near and so far, close but no cigar. It's a long, long way till opening day, and the winter's getting near. Have another beer, wait until next year. Have another beer, wait until next year. So Doris Kearns Goodwin, the author, she wrote a book called Wait Till Next Year. It was about growing up in Brooklyn as a Dodgers fan. And I sent her a copy of the record, and I got a very nice note from her in return. So that was kind of cool. One of the things, I'm a big baseball fan, and I love baseball. One of the things I really love about it is that baseball definitely has the best jargon, the best nicknames, the best expressions. So this song is called Mendoza Line. Anybody know what the Mendoza Line is? Yes, sir. 200 batting average, right. It was inspired by Mario Mendoza, who is the prototypical slick fielding, weak hitting shortstop. He managed to stay in the major leagues for 9 seasons based solely on his defensive ability. And he became infamous one day when George Brett, I'm sure you remember George Brett from the Royals, he was talking to reporters one day, and he was in this terrible slump, and he said something to the effect of, I knew I was off to a slow start when I looked at the averages and saw that I was below the Mendoza line. So from that point forward, Mario Mendoza became this sort of tragic icon, always associated with the 200 batting average. So I thought it would be kind of fun to write a song about it, and I did. And after I wrote it, I decided to record it. Now, before you go into a recording studio, you got to figure out, well, what kind of arrangement, what style, what musical genre. So to my ear, Mendoza Line sounds like something from the Wild Wild West, So we did like a country and western version, and we put together this really great country band in the studio. And I actually invited the guys down here today to play it with me, but, well, they're not here. Don't get me started on that. But I've got the next best thing for you, which is the karaoke version of the song, and there's a little sing-along part in it for you as well. I'm mired in this awful slump. I need some luck to clear the hump, or I'll be riding buses any day. I need a hit so bad that I could cry. The worse I do, the harder I try. That 90 feet looks like a mile away. I'll take a blue flare, 16 hopper, a lucky bouncer, a Baltimore chopper. Just get me across that old Mendoza line. Of course, I'd prefer a frozen rope, a swinging bunt. Give me hope. I gotta cross that old Mendoza line. Here's the sing-along. Mendoza Line, Mendoza Line. Just get me across that old Mendoza Line. Mendoza Line, Mendoza Line. I gotta cross that old Mendoza Line. Now Mario Mendoza, for whom this line is named, was an actual big leaguer for 686 games. He played short and second, a little third, and quite a glove, or so I've heard, which was essential cause he barely hit his weight. Though known for his infield utility, set the benchmark for futility, flirting with 200 all the time. In 79, he tied an all-time mark for the most games played in a big league park with an average below the Mendoza Line. I'll take a blue flare, a 16 hopper, a lucky bouncer, a Baltimore chopper. Just get me across that old Mendoza Line. Of course, I'd prefer a frozen rope, a swinging bunt. Give me hope. I gotta cross that old Mendoza Line. Let me hear you now. Come on. Mendoza Line, Mendoza Line. Just get me across that old Mendoza Line. Cross that old Mendoza Line, Mendoza Line. I gotta cross that old Mendoza Line. This is the only song where I can take a drink in the middle. Made the playoffs only once, and here the stats. 3 games played and 1 hit in 5 total at-bats. Do the math correctly, you will surely find right smack dab on that Mendoza line. So if or any part of life, think of that brave soul from south of the border. He plugged and scrapped his whole life through only to be linked to ineptitude. He's a true immortal of a different order. I'll take a blue flare, a 16 hopper, a lucky bouncer, Baltimore chopper. Just get me across that old Mendoza line. Get me across that old Mendoza line. Of course, I'd prefer a frozen rope, but a swinging bunch. Give me hope, I got across that old Mendoza line. Last time, Mendoza line, Mendoza line. Just get me across that old Mendoza line. Get me across that old Mendoza line, Mendoza line. Got across that old Mendoza line. Just get me across that old Mendoza line. Get me across that old Mendoza line. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Let me introduce the members of the band. Directly behind me on the drums, Chris Anzalone. Play along, please. Thank you. On bass, Rob Ignazio. And on electric guitar and mandolin, Steve Mayone. And on backup vocals, actually, I did all the backup vocals. Thank you. Because, you know, like you go into a studio and you hire professional singers, it gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. So I did all the vocals myself, and I only charged myself half as much. So I saved quite a bit of money doing that. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying to yourself right now, this is just some cheap publicity stunt to promote the CD. Well, let me tell you something. You're right. A lot of people think that football has supplanted baseball as the national pastime, and I don't agree with it. I think baseball is more popular in ways that you can't really measure it. You know, more people listen to it on the radio, they read about it, they know the players, they understand the rules, they've played baseball, they know someone who plays baseball or softball. So to me, baseball is firmly implanted in our psyche. But several decades ago, the late great comedian George Carlin did a terrific comedy piece comparing baseball and football, and I'd like to share that with you right now. Baseball is a 19th century pastoral game. Football is a 20th century technological struggle. Baseball is played on a diamond, in a park, the baseball park. Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium. Football, you wear a helmet. Baseball, you wear a cap. Football is concerned with downs. What down is it? Baseball is concerned with ups. Who's up? In football, you receive a penalty. Baseball, you make an error. Football is clipping, spearing, piling on, personal fouls, late hitting, and unnecessary roughness. Baseball has the sacrifice. Football is played in any kind of weather, rain, sleet, snow, hail, fog. But in baseball, if it rains, we do not go out to play. Baseball has a 7th inning stretch. Football has the 2-minute warning. Baseball has no time limit. We don't know when it's going to end. We might have extra innings. Football is rigidly timed and will end even if we have to go to sudden death. And finally, the objectives of the two games are completely different. In football, the object is for the quarterback, also known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack that punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line. In baseball, the object is to go home and be safe. Thank you. That's George Carlin. This is a song, actually, a Neil Diamond song that they play at Fenway Park, and it's not a baseball song, but you can sing along and do whatever you like. But thanks very much for coming out today. I appreciate it. And thank you to the Kennedy Center and the people who work with the Council on Aging. I appreciate that. And also the Quincy Arts Council, which is funding today's show. Where it began, I can't begin to know it, but then I know it's going strong. Was in the spring, and spring became a summer. Who'd have believed you'd come along? Okay, get your hands up now. Hands, get them up, come on. Touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Sweet Caroline, good times that never seem so good. I've been inclined to believe they never would, but now I look at the night and it don't seem so lonely. We fill it up with only two. And when I hurt runs off my shoulders. How can I hurt when holding you? Hands up one more time. Warm, touching warm, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. I've been inclined to believe they never would. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. I've been inclined to believe they never would. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I've got one more song. My name's Howie Newman. My website is howienewman.com. I want to thank you for being a wonderful audience. I mean, you did everything that a good audience should be doing. I mean, you listened, you clapped, you sang along, you laughed at some of my jokes, so I appreciate that. The song was written in 1908 by Albert von Pilzer and Jack Norworth, neither of whom had ever been to a baseball game prior to writing this song, and they didn't go to a game for like another 20 or 30 years, so apparently they weren't terribly convinced about their subject matter, but I think you know the words to this, so feel free to join in. Here we go. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I. And there's a root for the Red Sox. If they don't make the playoffs this year, it'll be a shame. For it's 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball